Yesterday I recorded a video about how on several occasions when I sleep deprived myself, I felt so good the day after. And I pointed out that one of the big downfalls is that it is impossible to be in a constant state of slightly sleep deprived, right? You're either going to go over and become a mess, or you're going to have to go to sleep and reset from zero again. But I want to point out there's another schedule that I like, and this one has the potential of being perpetual. And the best way to describe this is how I discovered it one time. I had just moved from New York City to here in Seattle where I live. This is a suburb of Seattle, actually. And on moving day, I had left New York on a Saturday, just around lunchtime, and it's a 5-hour flight, and I got to Seattle at about 2 p.m. Seattle time, right? And by the end of that day, I was already tired by the time it was my normal bedtime, and I went to sleep. And the next day when I got up with plenty of time to spare. I got to actually take a shower, and I had a lot of time to prepare for what I needed to do the next day. And then even the following day, on Monday, I still felt like I had a lot of time in the morning. And I was trying to reflect on what I did right, because when I was living in New York, I never had so much extra time. I was always rushed from one activity to the next, never had enough time to sleep, never felt awake when I finally got up. I was trying to reflect what I did correctly that time, and I realized that there was nothing I did correctly. It was because I had 3 extra hours those 2 days. So I needed kind of like an extra hour and a half every day to feel normal. And this is most apparent every time I travel from Seattle to Taiwan. So it's an 8-hour difference. And every time I go to Taiwan, if I go there for a 2-3 week trip, the first week I feel so good because I'm getting an extra 2 hours every day. Although I have to point out, this only works because I'm traveling for leisure and I can schedule my hours how I want. If I'm going to Taiwan for work, that might be a whole different story. So I got to point that out. But the nice thing about this, compared to the sleep deprivation that I suggested yesterday, is that this has a potential of being perpetual. The big barrier, of course, is your social commitments, right? If you're working around people who don't follow this schedule, or if you have family commitments that don't follow this schedule. The other thing I thought about in the past was to try to combine this idea with the sleep deprivation idea. So here's a little food for thought. If you work your typical hours, right? Let's say it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And between Monday and Friday, if you kept shifting a little later, right? So on Monday, you would go to sleep at, let's say, 5 or 6 p.m., and then the next day, you sleep an hour later, and then an hour later, and then by Friday, you're sleeping at, let's say you started at 6 on Monday, so by Friday, you're sleeping, let's say, at midnight, right? Which is still within the parameters. And then you could sacrifice your sleep on either Saturday or Sunday, and then you could enjoy the next day in the sleep-deprived state that I mentioned in the last video. Little food for thought. I tried it one time. It didn't seem to work for some reason. I cannot remember how it fell apart, but this is one of those ideas that kind of works on paper, but when you try it out, weird things will happen. So a little food for thought if you want to try it at your own risk, because like I said in the last video, last time I tried to get high by being sleep deprived, I pushed it a little bit further than my body could handle. But a little food for thought. Thanks for watching.